when he had my own, he called me, and I had a nickname, Jaybird, which is just real original. My name's Jay. But Jaybird, you haven't been down here to see me. And so we go see. We get there in the room, and it's not a big, full suite. It's a smaller cubicle room. There's a treadmill in there. And there's a stack of books on the treadmill, and he's running on the treadmill reading a book. And the only chair in the whole place was right behind me. Of course, he's wearing a hospital gown. And I saw a side of Pat Williams that we won't go into. Pat Williams spoke to our Student Leadership University program approximately in all of our youth pastor summits. The best we estimate, maybe he gave 400 speeches. And you know, everybody talks about how original he is. But before every one, he used the same line. Boy, it's an honor to be here. Jay Strack believes in free speech here in America. I'm here to give another free speech. And so, you know, there was a side to Pat. You had to kind of know what to do. The moment Ruth walked into his life was a game changer. I get a call, we gotta have dinner. And you know, we have dinner with Pat Williams. I brought a notebook, not because I have anything written, but you gotta always have a notebook when you go to dinner with Pat Williams. And sometimes, as Ruth can tell, it'll be 2-3 hours. But this time it was just me and Pat. And he said, you know, Jay, you know my family, and you know some of the things we've gone through, and you know my age, and you know, he was talking, he said, but I believe I found the one. And a couple of my friends say, well, you know, you need to pray about it. You need to be sure, especially with who you are and the fact. And he began to talk about it. She ran marathons. She was getting her PhD in counseling. She was the #1 trainer for Franklin Covey Time Management Systems. Organization was her middle name. And he began to talk. He said she goes to church in Tampa at Idlewild Baptist Church. And I said, Pat, I know the pastor there, but I said, man, Pat, sounds to me like she's custom made. She's tailor fitted just for you. He said, well, man, I believe it. I'm just asking the Lord. I want to make sure. And what if she says, you know, this is a whole lot to get into. No thanks, but no thanks. And so he's wrestling. He's in the valley of decision. Called the pastor, and Ruth, your pastor spoke glowingly about you. And I just simply said, Pat, it's unanimous. You need to call her. You need to nail this down. You need not to go past go. The answer's yes. But then besides, Pat, she actually wants to ride in that old blue-green van that all 19 kids could fit into and look like you got it from Army surplus. Why, who would want to give that up in life? And when you think about the life Pat had, and yet the generous love, the spirit, the enthusiasm, but Ruth, when you came into his life, as Pat would say, it was a game changer. And so while we're honoring Pat, my buddy, I met him 40 years ago in a green room. We both spoke on a conference. I was early on, he was main event. The next day he came up to me and said, can I join you? And we sat there and ate. And he said, I just want to get to know you because next time we're together, you'll be the keynote and I'll be the opening speaker. And I don't think that day happened very often in these 40 years, but that was Pat Williams. On the front of your program, as we go, and I know we've been here a while, on the front of your program, there's 2 dates. And if I want to tell you about Pat Williams, I would tell you, I want you just to circle, pen, pencil, lipstick, mascara, anything you got, just circle the dash. I've been a lot of places for a long time, spoken to a lot of people. I have never in my life seen one person pour so much into that little dash in between. You and I don't know how long our dash is going to be, right? Born here, called home there. But if you want to know Pat Williams, capitalize the dash. And if you figure out how to do that, let me know. I'm impressed. But circle the dash. And that is Patrick Williams. Friend, man of God, generous, kind, the corniest jokes ever in the history of mankind. And if he found out you'd been to Washington, D.C., or you'd been somewhere, you have to add an hour or two to the meeting, because he would have 100 questions. Pat Williams opened up the NBA All-Star Games to me. How do you thank somebody for a move like that? Madison Square Garden. And then when the All-Star Game was here, the chapels. And because of that, numerous teams all over the planet. Pat Williams constantly tried to figure out how he could make your life better. Patrick, the Strack family loves you. We miss you. When they were right there in the valley and not knowing what the next minute would bring. And then, I left after a long time there, and I left and I said to my wife, honey, he'll be with the Lord by tonight. But he was waiting for Jimmy. And Jimmy had flight after flight canceled, weather, airline systems that failed. I mean, you name it. And I believe Pat was waiting for Jimmy. And so I texted Ruth. I said, Ruth, how are we getting close? And she said, I don't know. He seems to be getting better. I said, I know what he's doing. He's looking around heaven. He's asking a lot of questions. He's planning on coming back and writing another book on the 7 things you must know about heaven. Patrick, we love you. Miss Ruthie and this amazing family, thank you. You brought the DeVosses here, world-class character. You brought some of the greatest people in the world. He introduced me to Dr. J and said, Dr. J, this is the real Dr. J. So Dr. J gave me a pair of his shoes. 18 something. They're you could put 4 of us in there. And then he signed it to Dr. J from the original and only Dr. J. Pat Williams, everywhere I look, has added value to me. And you being here today have said to the family, he's done the same for me. God bless you.